Hi guys, welcome to Simply Draw. I'm Elaine, and in today's loose floral sketch, we're going to be doing a daylily. So this is a great photograph here just to give you an idea of what these flowers look like. This is one that's not opened up yet, and these here, they're not opened up yet. So what this is, it's a really long enclosed tube. This will be a good, 3.5 or 4 inches long. And each side of this tube is a petal. And as the flower opens up, the petals curl out to the side, and you have all the stamens and the pistil left standing up in the center of the flower. So I just get this other book out of the way, blah, blah, blah. So here we have we can see how the stamens are, and the pistil is above the petals, and the petals curl to the edge of the flower. So there's a whole bunch of different varieties of lilies, and some of them are called daylilies because this blossom only lasts for 1 day, and then it begins to like fade and droop, and then another one is opening up. So it all depends on the growing conditions and the nutrition around the flower and whatnot. But this is a good photograph to show you how the petals sort of unfold from this initial stalk. And this section here just gives you a good idea of the number of varieties. So there's like a whole bunch of these guys, and the variety is, as far as I know, it's contingent on, like the petal shape and whether or not it has a frill and stuff like that, but primarily the color as well. So whenever you see photographs of these flowers, the picture tends to be like face on, looking down into the depth of the flower to show the color variation of that specific variety. So look at all this. My gosh, there's like a ton of lilies but when we focus on the key features and characteristics of what we want to draw, what we can include in our sketch is the pistil and the stamen sticking out, and the petals curling back and around. So look at this one down here, see? And so some of them, they grow up on an angle. So this is like the tube part, and the petals are coming back and around. Isn't this a fantastic book? Oh, somebody new. We're not doing those. So just also in here, this other one of Mom's books, this one also gives you a good idea of how these stamens are actually two-toned. So they're lighter yellow, and then they're kind of like this darkish brown partway up the stamen. And the pistil will be in here somewhere. The stamens are all curled. So you can see this pattern of the 3 petals curling away from the center, and then 3 more petals underneath that. So, and these are going to be blossoms that are coming. So what are we going to do, and which one? I don't know. I just hope there isn't too much glare on this one. How about just while you get your scrap paper and your pen, and I want you choosing a pen today where you can change the value of the blue depending on how much pressure you apply, because we're going to be doing quite a bit of shading. I want to focus on angles, shading, what else? Geez, that's enough. Okay, so you get your paper and your pen, and how about, there's just such a glare on the paper and the, but anyway, how about I try to figure this out and we sketch this one here. Okay, so as I say, what I want to focus on today is getting the shading in to show like some depth in the center of the blossom. We're going to have to be aware of our pen so that we don't, these stamens have like the white columns, so we have to make sure that when we're sketching in our stamens, we're actually focusing on shading the sections of the petal behind. These tops of the stamens, it's kind of like a little foot, you know, like a little dust cloth that's, and this is all covered in the pollen and what the bees come in and get. And then working on adding appropriate shading to our petals so that we can get this curve and have depth to our sketch. So there's actually like a lot that goes on with these flowers, but everything that we focus on, you know, angles, shading, being mindful of what to color and what not to color, all these skills are transferable to anything that we sketch. So it's true that we're dicking around with flowers, but everything that we practice here, specifically working with a daylily, is also going to help us when we do a bird or, you know, other things that I have planned for us. So once again, jeepers creepers, too much talking. Is your pen okay? Because I don't want to have to press too hard on my nice book. But let's just try to figure out where I can put the photograph so that you can zoom in and see this. And I'll try to sketch over here. Now, how about we start with this petal, and we want to, I hope you can see this, but this is the edge of the petal here that comes down and out. And the petals tend to be pretty fat. They are big blossoms, but I don't know, maybe you're going to want to keep your sketch a little bit small because then there's less shading to do. Okay, so how about I don't want to be too fussy because the objective today I think is going to be trying to focus on our, well, I don't want to do it too huge. Okay, now let's do this petal here, and what we can do is have a close look at this angle here between these two petals. See this little angle right here? So if we try to mimic that, then maybe we're gonna be pretty good in heading this off in the right direction. Maybe, maybe not. Where's it? This is supposed to be like back here in the center of the flower, and this is like the shoulder that comes out. So the angle is kind of about here. And we want to curl this petal and around to the back. not going to take it in too far, okay? Because we've got this angle to focus on. Now, we're going to go back to the center of our flower, and I want you to look at this little angle here, if you can zoom in between this petal and this one. So if we can do this curve, if we can mimic this, maybe it's going to head us off in the proper direction for doing this petal. So we want to go here and try to duplicate this angle here. Oh, I think I'm curving it in too much. I better do a little correction. Now I don't really know where to pull it in here. So let's go back to the center of the flower again, and we're going to do this slight curve here. And don't worry about getting all the little bumps in there. We can just kind of wing it. But if we can get that angle, okay. And then here, it's really hard to see, you guys, because of the color, this pale peach. But this is the other edge of the petal right here. So we want to come out with this angle and go around and up. So we want to come out and go around a little bit and up. And back, add a little wobble to it. Now, okay, that was stressful. Let's pull this one in here and try to get this angle similar to what's in the reference photo. Okay, now what do? How about, because we've got all the stamens, this petal, this is okay. This is okay so far. So how about let's look at this angle right here. See right here? So we got this, and then we go into this petal. So if we come down here, just to try to get this going off in the proper direction, and this petal curls to the back. Oh, I hope I left myself enough space on the page. Wait a second. I have to change this line. So like this, up the underneath part of the petal, and then here we've got this upper surface, and this curls around sharply and comes back in, but I don't want to pull it in too far because I don't know where this one comes out. Once we get the petals down, I think we should kind of like ditch the book, and I can, okay, this one comes down. What can be our point here? See this petal here? It comes in pretty much like that. So we're partway along our line of this curve. We're partway along our line, and we're going to come out with the base of that petal a little bit straight, and then we're going to curve it around. This one also has a little wobble to it. I'm sure that's the technical term. And then we've got the edge of the petal, a bump to it. And this also has quite a sharp curve to it. Okay, let's leave that like that. Now, there's a stamen right in the way, but we've got an angle of this petal coming. This is the one behind, this is the petal on top, and we're going to mimic, try to duplicate this angle that's right here. And we're going to go, this comes down quite a bit. And down. So the last like ½ inch of the petal is curved around out of view. That's what's going on there. Don't worry about this stamen right here, but let's just try to get this angle here, and then the edge of that petal. Okay, and we can bring this one. I think this petal, I haven't made it wide enough. I've got to go back, change this angle, and make this petal quite a bit wider, like that. And maybe even that isn't wide enough. I'll bring this edge down a little bit. That one in and around. Okay, well this part is screwed up for me. Sure, that's not the only part that's screwed up. Okay, so what I want you to do now is just have a look at the petals that you've got down and see if you're kind of happy. We're not going for like complete happiness. We're going for something that you can live with. Because what I want to do is just focus on the shading and that kind of stuff. So just make sure that you don't have petals that are like super huge, sticking out too much and blah, blah, blah. And if it's kind of like okay like this, then that's good enough to work with. And then what we'll do is let's put in, okay, if you don't like your basic sketch that you've done, just stop, you know, stop the video and just take a second to redo it. But I'm sure it's okay. Okay, now let's put in, because the feet, I'm sure that's not the technical term, that's at the end of the stamens, because those are dark, let's kind of like sketch some of these in to help keep us oriented in our sketch. And it doesn't, like, if it's not possible to put them all in, then that's fine too. But because the stamens and the pistil are so prominent in a daylily, we've got to make sure that they are part of our sketch. It's going to be really nice to ditch the book so that I'm not kind of like sketching on this curve, but because I think we can just really focus on our shading. This is the pistil right here, and this is one more stamen that's behind it. And kind of has a little clover top to it. Okay, now obviously we're not going to do all the little dots. All the markings are very typical of a lily, so that's nice. Okay, now what I would like to do is, if I can still keep the photograph in your field of vision, and work on my sketch over here. Let's see if we can start shading so that we can show the curvature of the petals. Now, see this fold, see this shadow right here? It's because the petal actually has a fold in it, and the light is being reflected on both sides of the fold and leaving a strip of darkness in the center of the petal. So, you know, when it comes down to like understanding what you're looking at, this is not a vein. It is a ripple in the petal, and that ripple is causing a shadow, and we've got shadow, we've got shading on this side of the ripple and here on this as well, and you can see it really well in this part. So all the petals have this bend to them. So what we could do is just start with that and get our some degree of shading in there. To start showing some of the bends and like also its changes in pigment with the coloring of the petal. But for our purposes today, when we're wanting to focus, what is going on? How come I not? Anyway, and let's get some of a little bit of the darkness in the. Now remember what I said before about our stamens, and we're going to be shading on the sides. Probably already buggered that up. But what we do want to do is leave this part light, and we can shade on the sides. To show some depth. On the inside of the flower. So be careful with your pen and make sure you're making it darker along the edges of the stamens that you drew. Okay? So see how I'm keeping my pen away from the actual stamens, and I'm shading on either side of them. Okay. Now, this petal is on top of this one. This one is underneath. So what we're going to have is we've got this darker part. Of course, there's green pigment as well, but it's also going to be shaded where the light isn't catching the petal as much because it's underneath. So let's just go ahead and shade these borders. And then there's a little bit of a concave here with this petal, so let's just get this shading in along here to show the concave. Keep your shading away from the edge because the light is catching the edge of the petal. So we have the light catching the edge of the petal, and we've got our shadow showing where the petal curves. And then we've got our fold in the petal as well. So just pull this shading out a little bit. As long as everything isn't all quite the same degree of shading, then you're going to be fine. It's going to be enough to sort of show the changes in the surface. Don't know who that is, but you guys are more important. Okay, now let's work on this petal here. So we've got our groove, which we can darken. And then we've got the raised part of the edge along that's catching the light, and then we've got shadow beside it, and then we've got the raised part of this section that's catching the light, and some shadow beside it. There's also a bit of a lip here with the petals, so what we can do is just like darken the tip to reflect that, to show that we've got a little bit of a lip there. And then this section of the petal is kind of like curving up, so that's catching the light, and then this isn't. So just a little bit of attention to shading is going to be enough, hopefully, to show the changes in the surface of the petal. Okay, I have to make sure that, okay, this had to stay, this I shouldn't have shaded. It's getting carried away. So I want to leave a white strip down here. Okay, so this darker little valley fold in the petal, I want to have more emphasis to that. A little bit more where it's bent. There's a little bit of a curl on the edge there. Hope you're not trying to color where or shade where my finger is blocking it. And then this shadow, there's a little bit of a lip, I think, to the petal there as well. So we'll just take that shading out, and then it curls down into the tunnel or whatever, the inside part of the flower. Okay, now this one here, let's tackle this petal. This is behind, this one's on top, this one's behind. So see how it's dark here? So what we want to do is just emphasize that shading along that border to show that this petal is behind the others. Oh, actually there's a tiny little space of green here, and what that is actually a gap between this petal and this one. So let's just put that in there like that and work on our shading along the borders, because this petal is on top of this one. It's casting a shadow, so it's a little bit darker. The bottom petal is a little bit darker underneath. And what we want to do is just kind of like emphasize that in our sketch. Now remember how I changed my line here because I didn't like it? So what I want you to do is, I'm sure your line didn't need changing, but if you can remember, and I've screwed it up, but leave a lighter section to sort of depict the edge of the petal where the light has caught that fold. And then we can just darken the underneath part of the petal back here for emphasis. Pretend that's all in shadow. And then we've got pigment coming out here, but we just want to make sure that we have our edge shaded to emphasize that this petal is behind the others. Now this curve is catching the light right here, and then the petal kind of just curves into the center. What a pain in the ass, eh, you guys? Oh man. Sorry, language, but all this shading and stuff, this is what's good for us. Okay, where are we gonna go now? Look at all this nonsense. Okay, let's do the easy part first. Do this dark, because that's what's behind. And then this also has a little bend to it. So let's do that dark. The edge of the petal is light. Let's, oh, spotty pen. Let's do this bend. This amount of shading. Oh, there's a lot going on in this one with the curve and everything. Well, so we'll just take our time. And then we want to do this in shadow because the petal is like a ripple. Okay, that part's light. This is also probably pigment, not so much shading. But let's just pull our shadow along this as well, and we've got some depth going into that concave part of the flower. Let's just pull this out a little bit. You know, I find with sketching, like whatever you see in the reference photo, you almost have to like double emphasize it in your sketch to really, really show curves and shadow and everything like that. So I think what we'll do is just get the basics down like this, and then we'll go back and make the dark parts a lot darker And the lighter, can't make the lighter parts lighter, but you know what I mean. Okay, now let's do this one. So for this petal here, mine's too wide, it looks like. That this should be a little narrower, but what I want you to do with this one is basically leave it alone, okay? And all we're gonna do is add our shading to the edge of the petal to show that it curves around a bend. And if you need to flip your page so that it's easier, by all means. So what I want to do is just really make sure that we've got the light catching this part of the petal and the shadow here. Okay, now what are we going to do with this? Let's go back and shade the end of the petal where it's curving away from us. And we've got this ripple through here with the shadow on one side and on the other side here. And then this is also darker at the edge to show, oh, come on, Mr. Pen. Can you cooperate, please? Yeah, I don't know if I'm shading outside your vision, but that's all right. You get the general idea. And I'm sure you're doing a fab job in yours anyway. You don't need to see what I'm up to. Okay, but I just want a darker tip on this one petal to show that it is curving away from us a little bit. And then let's just add some more pigment here. Okay, so you know what? Like, I'm kind of happy with this because these are, gosh, these are a colossal pain in the ass flowers, and we're really doing some good practicing with angles and shading. So what I want to do is, I think we've reached the point where what I've done is so different from the reference photo that it's no longer appropriate to look at this. So I just want to, if it's okay with you, I want to darken everything on a hard surface, not drawing on the book. Okay, you guys. So, hey, that'll work. Geez, I should have thought of that like 20 minutes ago. Now, I want you to go back to your sketch. And so what we're going to do is, because we understand, because we're smart and we're clever and we're understanding what we're doing with shading and values and whatnot, and curvature, and how the light is catching different parts of the petal that is curved toward us, and it is missing other parts of the petal that is like you know, like a rounded surface toward us. You know what I'm trying to say. What I'd like you to do is go back over your sketch. Okay, let's be clever and just shade in where we know it's supposed to be dark because of shadow. And what I want you to do is stay away. I want you to leave like a section that emphasizes the edge of the petal. okay? Because I want to start talking more about light and shadow. There's no such thing as a line. It's only degrees of light and how that light plays along a surface. Okay, so okay, this petal, sorry if I'm going to draw upside down. I hope I'm not blocking this, but we know that this petal is curving away from us. So we want to have it like darker at the edge, and then this section of the petal is concave like this, or is that convex? I don't know. The light is catching it. Come on, Mr. Pen. We got stuff to do. Like this, just pull this, emphasize the shadow where it's turning away from us. And there's going to be a little shadow from the stamen, right? Let's make it nice and dark. And let's just go around our blossom. Okay, and just make the center a little bit darker. Pull the shadow out a little bit, because they're a tube, right? It's like a, these pictures don't show it, but I think if you remember from the other ones, there's kind of like this column happening behind it. So it's okay if we make it a little bit darker in the center. And then we've got some shading throughout the petal itself because it's not a completely flat surface. This is the back part because there's a little twist in the petal. And a nice blotch from my pen. Thank you so much. Good. This petal has, I gotta fix the shading on mine because I want to make this a little bit darker here where it's, and when we just shade in these edges a bit more, what we're doing is emphasizing the shadow cast on this petal by the ones on top. See, so it just kind of like emphasizes the contrast where it's in the back part. The back part, well, I don't know, you know what I mean, underneath part. Okay, but I feel, oh, this is pigment, and I've just made this like too dark. I'm gonna leave this alone. I think I've screwed this petal up, but I do kind of like that edge there. Now this one's on top, and this petal here, it's got a curve to it. It's got the ridge, like the trench through it, and a little bit of a lip going on here. So just whatever you want to do with this petal, it's going to be grand. And as long as you just don't shade it all one color, it's going to have enough texture to it to show. And it does kind of like curl out from the guts of the blossom. Why is my brain happy doing so much work upside down? Gosh, it's a mystery. When I'm painting my cookies, you wouldn't believe how much work I do upside down. What's going on with this? What have I done? Okay. Oh, this was a line correction. That's what that was. Get rid of this. This should be lighter. I want to leave it alone. Okay, now this petal, let's just clean up a little bit of the shading around here. Let's make it emphasize the darkness along the edge to show that it is underneath the other two petals. Petals beside it. Pull that shading out a little bit. Clean it up. What do we have? There's a bit of a ridge here. And this, it's also twisted a smidge, and we can show that twist with our shading. Okay, I want to do more. In here. Okay, so what do you think? I think it's kind of cool. Let's just bring this out a little bit. Stay away from the stamens and the pistils. We just want to bring our shadow out a smidge. We can make the guts a little bit darker if we need to. There is, you know, the ripples where the green is. I wish I could just, I went a little bit heavy here, but otherwise I kind of like it. Are you happy with what you've done? Okay. Let's put in a little bit more of a lip on this petal here. And I think that's pretty acceptable. Okay, so what have we learned? That we're not doing daylilies again for a while. Okay, this business about shading and understanding the lighting and how the light changes along the surface is critical to our understanding, and it's also transferable to a whole bunch of different things that we're going to be drawing. So job well done, you guys. I think that's a wrap. Stay tuned. The next sketch that we're going to do is a little hedgehog. Don't be scared, it's not that bad. Okay, thanks for your company. I'll see you next time.